I was halfway through my second cup of coffee when she said it, like it was nothing, like the words had no weight at all. I had lunch with my ex. The mug slipped from my hands, shattering on the tile. I stared at her, heart thudding so loudly I thought she might hear it over the hum of the refrigerator. What? My voice came out rough, strangled. Why would you? She looked at me with that half smile that had once made me melt, the one that always suggested I was overthinking. But today that smile felt brittle, hollow. It was just lunch, she said softly. Nothing else. I wanted to scream, to demand explanations, but there was a pause in her eyes, a hesitation so sharp it cut through me. Then she went silent. For a long time. And that silence, years of trust and shared life collapsing in that quiet, was worse than anything she could have said. We had been together for 20 years. 20 years of building a life, raising kids, weathering losses and joys alike. I had loved her through every laugh, every tear, every mundane weekday that now felt like a distant, almost imagined life. And yet here I was, feeling that life unravel like a thread pulled too hard. The days that followed were suffused with tension. I tried to convince myself I was overreacting, that lunch with an old friend could be innocent, but the cracks began to show in the simplest ways. She'd pick up her phone quickly when I entered a room, laugh a little too loudly at messages I couldn't see. She started staying later at work, claiming meetings and client calls, but the rhythm was off. I watched, hesitant to accuse, afraid of my own suspicion. I found myself replaying our history, looking for signs I had missed. Maybe there had been glances, lingering touches, jokes shared that felt just a little too intimate. My love for her battled with a creeping worry, an unease that settled into my chest like a stone I couldn't remove. I wanted to believe her. I needed to. But a quiet voice in the back of my mind whispered that something was wrong. A week later, a friend of mine dropped by unexpectedly. She lingered, eyes darting between us, awkward, hesitant. "I don't want to intrude," she said slowly. "But are you sure about the lunch?" The implication hit me like a cold wind. My chest tightened. "I don't know what you mean," I said, though my voice was trembling. The friend looked at me, pitying, unsure. "Just be careful," she said and left. That night, I stayed awake on the couch, the silence of the house pressing in. I remembered our early years. The way we fell for each other, the intensity of first love, the certainty that nothing could come between us. I thought of our wedding day, our honeymoon, quiet nights of laughter and whispered dreams. And now, each memory felt fractured, tainted by the unknown. I loved her still, but the love was tangled with a sharp, insistent ache of betrayal. It was an accidental discovery that finally broke the dam. She left her tablet on the counter while she made tea, notifications lighting up the screen. I tried not to look, I really did, but the preview of a message caught my eye. "It was wonderful seeing you today. Can we do it again soon?" The sender's name was him, her ex. My hands shook as I held the device, my stomach twisting, a wave of nausea and heartbreak washing over me. When she returned, I confronted her. My voice was quiet, controlled, though inside I felt raw. "Who is he?" I asked, my eyes fixed on hers. She looked away, lips trembling. "It's complicated," she whispered. And there it was again, the hesitation, the pause that said more than any words could. The conversations that followed were agonizing. She tried to explain, to reassure me, to frame it as nostalgia, a harmless reconnection. But every word felt strained, unnatural, a veneer over something deeper I couldn't yet name. I wanted to believe her, but the evidence, both in her manner and in the digital traces, was undeniable. My mind replayed every laugh, every touch, every quiet moment, questioning what had been genuine and what had been a mask. I began retreating into silence, walking through our home like a ghost. Every room held memories now sharpened with pain. The bed we shared, once a sanctuary, felt foreign. I remembered mornings filled with warmth and laughter, nights spent in comfort and conversation, and wondered how much of it had been real and how much had been a carefully constructed illusion. The turning point came when she finally admitted the truth. Her voice was barely audible, a fragile thread breaking under the weight of guilt. I didn't mean for it to go this far, she said, tears streaming. It was lonely, I guess. Felt unseen. I never wanted to hurt you. I wanted to reach for her, to hold her, to make it all right again. But I couldn't. Love alone could not undo the fracture that had appeared in our 20 years together. I realized that forgiveness was not about absolving her actions, but about understanding my own boundaries, my own capacity to heal. We spent hours talking, sometimes in silence, sometimes in fragmented conversation. I questioned everything: my love, my judgment, our history. And in that questioning I found a painful clarity. I could not simply go back to how things had been. I could not erase the betrayal, nor could I ignore it. But I could choose how I moved forward, with dignity, honesty, and a commitment to my own emotional survival. The next morning I woke early and walked through the quiet streets near our home. The world was still, indifferent to my pain, and in that stillness I felt a strange liberation. I didn't hate her. I didn't even fully understand why she had acted the way she did. But I understood myself. My need for truth, my need for trust, and my refusal to let my heart be diminished by someone else's mistakes. When I returned, she was awake, sitting quietly with a mug of coffee, her eyes red from crying. I sat beside her, close but not touching, and said, "We need time. I need time." She nodded, and for the first time in weeks, the silence between us was not heavy with suspicion, but filled with understanding, muted, painful, and honest. 20 years together, and in a single confession, everything had shifted. Love remained, but it had changed shape, tempered by betrayal and tempered by resilience. I realized then that trust, once broken, cannot simply be restored by apologies or reassurances. It must be rebuilt from scratch, if at all, and sometimes the most loving act is to give yourself the space to do so. I left her sitting there, and I didn't look back. The house was quiet, the morning sun casting long shadows across familiar furniture. I carried heartbreak, yes, but also a new awareness, a truth forged in pain. Love and trust are inseparable. Betrayal tests them both. And sometimes walking away is the only way to survive, to preserve what is left of yourself. She had lunch with her ex. She went silent when I asked why. And in that silence, I learned what it truly means to love and to protect your heart, even when it breaks.